I see you.
Just walked in.
You just walked in?
I just walked in. By the way, yeah, parking. When you come, they're removing the equipment that built that new elevator. So there's trucks all over. There's trucks all over the parking, but on the far east side, when you pull in and you go left, I guess. Yeah, left. There's parking down there.
Oh, okay, because I usually go towards the right.
I know, but I don't think you'll see, you won't be able to, but there's trucks all over the parking lot. I couldn't believe it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
At least the elevators are done. Does that mean they're done?
No.
Oh.
Well, they're done. In 2 days, the inspector is coming for the other elevator, and then after the inspector, that's what I'm told. But the last time they said the inspector was coming, it was weeks before it started work. So I don't know.
It's never easy.
No,
this isn't so much of a.
No, this isn't a big problem, but yeah.
No, this is not.
So
there are bigger problems in the world today.
Boy, you're not kidding. You're not kidding.
I can't find
I tell you, I'd like to take the entire administration. What's the other word I want?
Hi.
Hello, Rabbi.
Hello, how's Sippy?
Oh, no more today so far. Baruch Hashem, she's in good hands.
Okie dokie.
Good. You'll know more today.
Hopefully. I mean, yesterday they were still gathering data. We'll just call it that. Let's see how it goes. But she's at Evanston, and hopefully, just living without knowing what comes next for a few days. And so.
It's hard.
I know. It's reality, but for some reason, I ignore reality often. But
we have to.
Yes, I guess so.
Yeah. It's so compartmentalized, right? I mean, at Evanston is taking care of one thing and Glenview another, right?
Yeah. Well, one was one was with her physical, because they were trying to make sure she didn't have a stroke.
Right.
Once they just zeroed in on that they think it was medication related, then Evanston is the place that has to deal with that. They can't deal with that. Yeah, no, they're all very compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Even when last time she had a stroke, she had to have a procedure done on her heart. They took her by ambulance from Evanston to Glenbrook, had the procedure done, and then brought her back to Evanston.
Oh, God.
Like each place is that specialized.
Doesn't seem very efficient. Well, I don't.
Maybe it is. Maybe because each place can then focus on.
That's true.
On one thing, so they don't have to be partially good at a bunch of different things. Whatever it is, it's funny. Okay. Okay, we are in Mitzvah 267. He prohibited negative mitzvah, negative commandment. He prohibited the worker from eating from something that he is working on during the time of his work. Mishnah Torah, laws of hiring, and the comment of the commentary Hagos Maimonides over there, when it is attached to the ground, and that is his saying, but do not lift a sickle over your fellows standing grain stalks, they said. But a sickle is to include anyone with a sickle at the time of the sickling, meaning at the time of the harvest. Do not harvest for yourself. So when you're out there and you're harvesting, you might start to feel like, you know what, as long as you're out there and there's so much out here, he's not going to mind. I'll just, 3 for him, 1 for me, 3 for him, 1 for me, something like that. You can't do that. And it is already known that this verse is speaking about a worker. So when it says, when you enter, it means to say with it, when you, the worker, entered, like the Targum said, when you are hired. And likewise in Bava Metzia, they said, these eat according to the Torah, one involved with the attached produce at the time of the work's end. The regulation of this commandment have already been explained there. So the thing is this: if somebody hires you to work with food, they are supposed to somehow allow for you to eat at some point. But the point is, you can't make that decision, especially when you're out harvesting. But he prohibited the worker from taking more than he can eat from something that he's working on. So there are circumstances where you are allowed to eat while you're out there, but you're only supposed to take what you're hungry for while you're out there. You're not supposed to bring more than that. So, and that is his saying, you may eat grapes as you desire to your satisfaction. The regulations of this commandment have already been explained in the 7th chapter of Bava Metzia. There, what is permitted for him to eat and what he does not have permission to eat is explained, such as that if he eats, he transgresses. You may not place it in your vessel. So let's just see here what it does here. So this is from the Rambam in his codes. When a person neglects his work and eats when he has not completed his work, he transgresses a negative commandment, as it states, you shall not lift a sickle against your colleague standing grain. According to the oral tradition, it is explained that as long as the worker is involved in reaping, he should not lift a sickle in order to partake of the produce himself. Similar laws apply in all analogous situations. Similarly, a worker who carries home produce with which he had worked, or who takes more than he can eat himself and gives to others, transgresses a negative commandment, as it states, you may not place in your containers. The violation of these two prohibitions is not punishable by lashes, because a person who ate when one should not have or took produce home is liable to make financial restitution. So you're not going to get lashes for this. In other words, we would call this, this is not technically a criminal offense. It's, it's, in other words, you're going to owe money after this, but it's not criminal in the sense that you would get lashes. So again, they do have to make sure that you do have food while you're working, but you're not allowed to make that decision on your own while you're out there working. And when they do allow you to eat, then it's only what you need in the moment, but not to take home. Next, mitzvah 269. He prohibited us from ignoring a lost object. Rather, we must take it and return it to its owners. And that is his saying, you may not remain indifferent. We've already explained about their saying in the Mechilta regarding the matter of a lost object. We have found to learn that one transgresses a positive and a negative commandment. So if you don't return something that is lost, then you are violating both a positive commandment and a negative commandment. The language of the Gemara is returning a lost object is a positive commandment and a negative commandment. And in Mishnah Torah, it says he repeated the prohibition about this content, and the negative commandment appears in it. And that is his saying, you may not observe your brother's ox or his sheep straying. And in the Sifrei, you may not observe, that is a negative commandment. And earlier says, if you encounter, you must surely return. That is the positive commandment. The regulations of this commandment have already been explained in the second chapter of Bava Metzia. So you are walking somewhere and you see a lost dog. There are details, there's a rule of thumb, which is if you see something lost, you're supposed to return it. There are exceptions to this, but for the most part, it stands. So if you saw, for instance, a lost dog wandering, what appears to be a lost dog wandering, you should try to figure out who owns it and return it. That's a positive commandment, and if you don't, you're transgressing a negative commandment. Now, again, when does it become your responsibility? Is it your responsibility when you see it? Is it your responsibility if it comes into your property? Is it your responsibility only if you begin the process of returning it? Like, so if it's on the ground and you're walking by and you notice it, must you stop, turn around and go handle it? Let's say you're walking, you're going to, you're downtown and you're supposed to go to a meeting. And so you happen to see what looks like a lost dog. So are you obliged in that situation to return it? So there are all sorts of stipulations, but this is the general rule. The general rule is that if you see something that belongs to somebody else, you're supposed to return it. Now, it is true in the Torah, it uses language that suggests that your biblical obligation to return a lost object only applies when the owner is Jewish. If the owner is Jewish, you do not have a biblical responsibility to return the lost object. But you'll notice in the Gemara, even though the Gemara does say this and makes a point of this in several places, but in the Gemara that primarily deals with this, which is Elam Metzios, the second chapter of Bava Metzia, they then bring several instances where Jews returned lost objects to Gentiles. And it's certainly considered a Kiddush Hashem, to sanctification of God's name, to return a lost object to Gentiles. There's no greater mitzvah that a person can do than Kiddush Hashem. I know sometimes when people hear, you don't have to do it, but it does sanctify God's name when you do it. So it's funny because it sounds like, it's not a big deal. But when you say it does sanctify God's name when you do it, that's like saying, but this is an opportunity to do the biggest mitzvah you're ever going to be able to do. So, and it's strongly, strongly encouraged that Jews return lost objects, whether it's to a Jew or not. And, but there are some distinctions. We have talked about this in the past, but I'll remind you. And that is that since the mitzvah here is Kiddush Hashem and not the technical mitzvah of returning a lost object, so they need to know that you're Jewish. If they don't know you're Jewish, then it's not called a sanctification of God's name. So, like, for instance, Rabbi First once called me and he asked me if Tzipi is Tzipi the lady that was on the news? So apparently what happened was at the Jewel on Howard, there was somebody who found a wallet in the parking lot and apparently it was full of money and other things. And she made an effort to find out whose it was and then returned it to that person. Somehow, this made it to the news, and it was on the news. So the reason Rabbi First was calling is he didn't see it. Somebody else told him about it. He thought it was Tzipi, and he said that in the future, you should always use your Hebrew name if if they if it's something like this on the news. You should always use your Hebrew name. Now, that would be with Tzipi, because they can't necessarily tell if a woman's Jewish or not. If it would be me, where it looks obviously like I'm a Jewish person, it's not as important. The main thing is they somehow figure out that it's a Jew doing it, because the mitzvah is Kiddush Hashem. The mitzvah is not returning a lost object. The mitzvah is Kiddush Hashem. The way you're doing this sanctification of God's name is returning the lost object. But otherwise it's waste, because there's no Kiddush Hashem. And then I've mentioned to you that when we were in high school at Brisk Yeshiva, so they had payphones, and if you find, let's say, a quarter, sometimes you'd find like a quarter in the return slot. Like you'd put your fingers in the return slot to check if there's money there, and you'd find, let's say, a quarter there. So there's a way to return that to the phone company. You can't just put the quarter in the phone. It just comes out again. So you have to call the operator, tell her that you found a quarter and you're returning it. And then she can do something to the phone where it accepts the quarter. So Rav Aaron had told us that when that happens, you need to say, I am a student at Brisk Rabbinical College, and I found this quarter, and could you return it? Because they need to hear that you're Jewish. Otherwise, you're not doing the Kiddush Hashem that is available, for doing it. And so this mostly comes up when you get something like wrong change, or somebody forgets to charge you for something. Sometimes it can be sort of embarrassing, because the person forgot to charge you for something. So now you're coming back and you're telling them, this person forgot to charge me. But the thing is, it's going to be extra work for them to fix this. So there's a part of you that's going, this is going to annoy them more than it's going to please them, especially because they're just a worker at the store. They're not the owner of the store. So for the worker, the main thing that they're concerned about is the amount of work they have to do. And if they're under pressure, so it's but if you want to do the sanctification of God's name, in the end, the truth be told, in the end, it almost always was appreciated, even though these people are just workers there. They're not the real owners. It's almost always been appreciated, and with a big smile. But I have had it like where the person just says, just take it, just forget about it, just take it. There, the thing though is, are they qualified to make that decision? If this person is a cashier, are they able to make a decision? It once happened with a small bike. Remember, it was at Kmart in Lincolnville, near Lincoln Village. There was a Kmart over there, and I bought like I bought a bike, and they completely charged me wrong. They charged me way less than that was supposed to be the cost of the bike. And it seems strange to me. And I said to the person, are you sure? Because that just sounds like too little money. And she's going, no, I'm sure. You just take it. Do not worry about it and just go. Now there was a line of people behind me, and I could have said, I'm leaving it here. I'm going back there to check on the price in order to make sure, but everybody's feeling the pressure, and I took it. Now, afterwards, you've got to ask yourself, did this person have a right to tell me that? Now, it could be they do, because they also have to manage the lines and people's annoyance in line and things like that. So it could be they are given that kind of choice to make those kind of decisions. I know that with Amazon, a lot of times what happens with Amazon is if they send you the right thing, they tell you just keep it. Like you're trying to return it, and they go, just keep it. We'll send you another one. And sometimes they're not cheap. I mean, they're not thousands of dollars, but it could be something that costs $100. That seems to be policy, because I've heard that from several different people. But I remember, like my son Mo, when he was living in Chicago, he got actual car tires, actual car tires. Now he was ordering car tires for, because there were guys who he worked with. He was working at Mizrahi Grill, and there were some guys there who wanted to order car tires, and they did not live in a safe neighborhood where they were concerned their stuff would get stolen. So he ordered it. So it came to our house, and it was the wrong tires. And so he called them up, and they said, just keep them. And so he, in trying to get the Kiddush Hashem, he called them back up, and he did this thing where he said, my name is Moshe Karsh, I'm Jewish, and we're supposed to return lost objects. And this is lost, but they wouldn't take it back. They told him just keep it. And so I guess you get the merit of trying when something like that happens. But so that's the distinction when it comes to returning a lost object to a Gentile. It is still something that we're supposed to do. You even see it mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch, at least let's put it this way, in the commentaries on the side of the Shulchan Aruch, that we're strongly encouraged to do it because it's a Kiddush Hashem to do it. But technically, it is not required. Technically, biblically, it is only required if it's another Jew. There's been all manner of discussion over the years. I've heard different attempts to explain why this should be. Why should it be that this only applies to Jews? So one of the points that is made is that in most cultures, it was not expected that people would return lost items. Up until modern times, it was not expected that people would do it. In fact, there were certain places where the law was that if somebody found something that did not belong to them, they were supposed to turn it into the government, that it belongs to the government. It doesn't belong to the individual who finds it. So there are those who point this out to say that this is a unique law in the first place, which perhaps is there to strengthen the bond of one Jew to another. The notion that your neighbors are looking out for you is just a huge part of what makes communities strong, is that sense that people are looking out for you and your well-being. And that's something you certainly would want to encourage with Jewish neighbors. But again, this is just attempting to explain it. This is not in stone anywhere. This is just an attempt to explain it. So the Torah wants to encourage people within a community to strengthen the bonds in a community, and the Torah doesn't want us to live with Gentiles. There are other places where you see this reflected in rabbinic law, that even the rabbis did not want people living amongst Gentiles. They didn't say it's forbidden, but they tried to discourage it. So one of the laws that was designed for this purpose is that when you make an eruv, if that eruv includes Gentiles in it, you have to buy or rent the property from that Gentile. Your community has to do it, the Jewish community has to do it, or you as an individual have to do that in order for the Eruv to work. Now, the Eruv is entirely a rabbinic device, so it's completely designed by the rabbis. And so they put this like little poison pill in the Eruv for the purpose of discouraging people from I don't know if I should take this. I'm just going to take it because I don't know if it's about Sippy. 1 second. Hello? Hello?
Hello, this is Jeff with Income Tax Group.
Yeah, that was a scam. Okay. Yeah, so they put this in. You see that the Gemara Eruvin talks about it. The reason they put this requirement in is to discourage people from living amongst Gentiles. Because if you find out that you can't make an Eruv when you live amongst Gentiles, then you're going to not want to be living amongst Gentiles because it's going to make your life harder. So, and they assumed that Gentiles would not go along with this because they would think there's something weird, maybe like witchcrafty or something like that going on, and the Gentiles would not go along with it. And it's the most hysterical thing. I really do think it's absolutely hysterical how willing Gentiles are to go along with this, even to a point where it should seem absurd to them. It should seem absurd. And yet they just totally cool with it. I have been involved with the Eruv in Northbrook since its inception, up until about a year ago when I retired. But I was very involved with the Eruv here in Northbrook. And I cannot tell you how many times, first of all, just to get the Eruv settled, our Eruv has different constituencies. So our Eruv is in Northbrook. It's also in Glenview. Those are two different jurisdictions. It's also, there's a part where it goes through, which is called unincorporated Northbrook, where the authority is Cook County. It's not under the village of Northbrook. It's not under the village of Glenview. It's Cook County. So in order to get the Eruv established, we had to get, so what you do is you don't have to go to every individual. Practically, you do not have to go to every individual. You can go to an authority. That authority has to have the power to affect that homeowner. Either they might be a authority that could take the property away from them, or you could fine them, or they could enter their house, like the police or something. So it has to be somebody like the police, but it could be government. It could be government of that place. The government could give you a permission. And so that's what happened is we went to the village of Northbrook, and it's an official board meeting for the village of Northbrook, and they ceremoniously sell the rights to all the properties for Shabbos for the purpose of the Eruv. And so Northbrook did it, Glenview did it, Cook County did it. There was certain area that is forest, so we had to have the forest preserve. There's certain areas that is IDOT, the Illinois Department of Transportation. They gave permission. It was like you had to get like all these different authorities in order to give permission, and they did without sort of blinking. It was one guy, Michael Zuckerman, who went around to all these different places and got it done. Then when it falls down or something goes wrong with it, this is another funny thing. This is not about getting permission, but it's just funny how they honor it. Like at the beginning of our Eruv, they were doing work on the highway and on some spur ramps, and there were areas where they were doing work where they had to take down a pole from our Eruv. or 2 poles from our Eruv. So one of the guys from our neighborhood, Ken Avner, approached one of the work teams there during the week, and he said, look, I see that you're taking down our poles, but we need those poles to be up before you leave, like for the weekend. We need them on the weekend, and we need them to be up before Friday night. So he said the guy has his work orders. He has like a clipboard with his work orders, and he flips it open and he shows him that it says Eruv, and it told them that they have to do. It was on the IDOT order sheet for this guy. Eruv, make sure the poles are back up. And one time, one of the guys was fixing. There was a part of the Eruv that went down near the railroad track, in the metro, track in Northbrook, and so he's trying to fix this like fence, and it's right near the railroad track, and a policeman sees him, and he's going like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm working on the Eruv," and the guy goes, "Okay, no problem." And it was like the most suspicious looking stuff, and they were totally cool with it. This is something like I could imagine that Sanhedrin, whoever was working on this, who felt like they had a foolproof plan that would make sure that Jews do not live amongst Gentiles, because what Gentile is going to give you permission to, for their place over Shabbos? And it's just like the ones who tend to give trouble are the are Jewish people in some of these places. There has been pushback from some people. There's some neighborhoods where the concern is that a lot of frum people are going to move into their neighborhood if there's an Eruv, and there's Jews in that neighborhood that don't want a lot of frum people moving into their neighborhood. So there's been fights in different places. Also, there have been places where they're concerned about the property value if a lot of frum people move in. So some people just don't want to be around frum people. There's other people that are worried about the property values. So you have certain high end, like in New York, they had it. It was once featured on the Daily Show. There's a they did a feature. I want to see if I could find that because it's just so funny. Here, 1 second.
Is that the one where Jews are talking about Jews?
Yeah, but the main thing is the end of it. I won't show the whole thing, but the end of it where the guy has the Eruv hat. Do you remember that? Here, I have to see.
I'm not sure.
It's a very funny scene. Okay, let's just see here. All right, wait. What just happened? Share device audio. Okay, now, let's see. Yeah.
Everyone.
Can you
has
hear
heard of
this?
The Hamptons. It's where New York's rich and famous
Oh, no.
get their summer on. But these past few months, the Hamptons has also been the home of a major dispute. Michael Costa has more.
Oh, this may. I don't
When
know
you
if
think of
this
the
is him.
Hamptons, you think of pristine beaches, cold rosé, and dressing up as a caterer to sneak into Billy Joel's Labor Day party.
But the Hamptons also have a dark side, an ancient conflict between the white man and his mansions and the Shinnecock, a native tribe who live next
No,
door
this
on
is not
their
it.
ancestral
No,
lands.
never mind,
Now
that's
the
not it.
conflict is erupting again as the Shinnecock have erected a giant tribal monument on the only road into the
That's not it.
Hamptons.
1
I
second.
went to find out how an indigenous symbol could raise tensions in a place with the world's highest concentration of NPR tote bags.
It is kind of an eyesore. You know, you come here for its beautiful nature and environment, and to see that, it's just out of place.
Very obtrusive and distracting.
Yeah, that is not it. I'm trying one more time because it was just so worth it. Daily Show. Clip. Eruv. Let's see here, YouTube. This is it, Wyatt Cenac. It did involve Wyatt Cenac. All right, I'm going to do Wyatt. One last thing here.
Rabbi, just quickly, isn't it encouraged in the Gemara that the rabbis should erect an Arab in the town? That's one of the first things they should do.
Mitzvah.
It's
Not a mitzvah.
no. I mean, it is considered in many situations, it's considered important because there's actual Jews who would carry otherwise if they didn't do it. But it could be, but I don't remember that. And I know a lot of rabbis are not happy with them. So what would they say about that? But it's possible. It's possible that there is such a thing. Off the top of my head, I don't remember that. But they're okay with having an Eruv. They just don't want you to live amongst Gentiles.
Yeah.
So that's their thing. It sounds like they would be very happy for you to have an Eruv. They just don't want you to live amongst Gentiles. It's turned. Whatever. I'm not finding that. But anyways, he has an Eruv hat. That's what he ends up having, a hat that he wears. And while he's wearing the Eruv hat, he can do whatever he wants. And so he's eating a ham sandwich. And John Stewart's going, well, why? You can't eat a ham sandwich. It's not kosher. And he said, that's okay, John. I'm in the Eruv. I'm in the Eruv. And they're making fun of it.
I never saw that one. I think
yeah.
of a neighborhood where non-religious Jews are very upset because religious
Well,
Jews
this was
are
part of it.
Oh.
This was like the last thing. You see, he's wearing this black hat, and it's got 4 little poles stuck up with wires in between them, and he's eating a ham sandwich. Wyatt Cenac, his one of his reporters, and he yeah. But I'll find it one day. One day, I'll find it. All right. So I've only brought that up because of this, because this thing about Kiddush Hashem and returning lost objects to Gentiles, how it's possible that it's possible that originally biblically it's only about returning it to Jews because you're trying to strengthen the bonds of community with other Jews, but the Torah wouldn't want you to do that with Gentiles because it doesn't want Jews to live amongst Gentiles. So if that's the assumption, that would explain why it's only returning it to other Jews and not to Gentiles. At some point, the Kiddush Hashem thing started to loom large. And so that sort of took over, but we don't know, but it's a possible explanation for why it doesn't apply biblically to Gentiles. All righty. I look forward to being able to learn with you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.